Hey y'all, I'm back. Hair's a little more fluffy today. Said I was gonna be posting more. I don't have a regular schedule yet, but I just know that I will be posting more. So in today's video, I wanna tell you how I got to Puerto Rico, why have I relocated to Puerto Rico, how long I've been here, so on and so forth. So there's a long version of the story and a short version. I'm gonna try to do something in between to keep your attention and not bore you. So starting from the beginning, when I was like 19 or 20 years old, I actually attended a exchange program, or I did like a study abroad program at the University of Puerto Rico. I was here for about 6 months, and strangely enough, while I was here, I had like a love-hate relationship because Caribbean Spanish is actually a very difficult dialect to learn. So it was hard because I just wasn't able to understand a lot of people. Most of my friendships had to be with either English speaking Puerto Ricans or Americans. And it was just like a difficult time in my life because I felt like solitary and alone and all those feelings like when you go away to college, except I'm someplace where I don't know a lot of people and I don't speak the language. But I walked away from that experience with the conclusion of I actually like the Caribbean and I'd like to retire there one day. So I'm like 19 or 20 years old saying this. And fast forward to, the pandemic, I'm going through a divorce, and I visited Puerto Rico with my kids on vacation during the pandemic because that was a place we didn't need. I think that the restrictions were not as severe, so we were able to actually travel to the island. And I remember calling a friend who heard her fiance, they had a property in on the island, and I said, hey, I'm here in Puerto Rico, and she said, oh, stay there, I'm going to meet you. So she flew in from Chicago, met me on the island, and kind of took us around. It was really fun. I'm so glad she did that. And then she said, you should get some property here. And I thought, wow, I had been trying 20 years to get back to Puerto Rico. I had been Dominican, I had been to Cuba several times, but for whatever reason, it was just not in the cards for me to get back to Puerto Rico. Or I don't want to say not in the cards, though. It just didn't work. So this was my first time being on the island in so many years. And the thought of having property seemed more doable because I had seen her property and I had known someone who had purchased property here. So I got on realtor.com and started looking and found a place. I didn't get to see it while I was here on vacation because of the COVID restrictions. You had to have so much advance, but I ended up seeing it by a video tour, so never even got into it. Did a contract and the offer was accepted. So this was almost 3 years ago, and I got the property with the idea that one day I will retire in the Caribbean. So I had been renting it out, going okay. It's a smaller property, so it hasn't been the most lucrative Airbnb that I've had, but I know there's some fixes and things I can do to make it a little more profitable. So I'm working on that now. That's one of the reasons I'm here. But fast forward a little bit into 2022, I ended up moving to Florida, which was a great move from Chicago to Florida because I just wanted a reprieve from the cold weather. Again, we had really brutal, harsh lockdowns in Chicago. And I needed a change of scenery because I was recently divorced. So it worked out that I was able to buy a home in Florida, which is an amazing testimony, you all. I'm going to tell you more. Like, God has been so good to me. Going through divorce was absolutely just brutal and heartbreaking. I cannot describe. I don't even know what pain could be worse. People say death, like if your spouse died, that would be bad, but I think divorce is worse, and that's another video. But I went through all of those feelings, but God has been so faithful. So that's why I want to come on this channel, and I want to come on these videos and just testify. But anyway, let me stop going on these rabbit trails. So I got this house in Florida, and I knew when I got there that it was going to be temporary. I didn't know where I would be going after that, but I just had the sense that I was supposed to go there, get it set up as an Airbnb, which again, that's another testimony because got this house kind of savings wiped out, and I'm like, how on earth am I going to furnish this house and get it prepped for a short-term rental? But end up getting through that. I'll talk about that a little bit and maybe in another video. And the reason why I needed to do that was because some of you may or may not know that I have been taking care of my mom, who was diagnosed with multiple health issues. And so it had been about 7 or 8 years, and I was honestly like at the end of my rope. as a caregiver. And I was one of those people who would say I could never put my parents in a home. That's something I could never do. However, now being someone who has gone through that and experienced that, and although I have other siblings, I'm really the only one that's been, charged with caring for my mother. And because of what she's been diagnosed with, I don't even have the words. I don't want to tell her medical business on the internet, but it was just a very difficult time for me and my girls. And I made the hard decision to put her someplace where she could be attended to, like professionally, people who were skilled dealing with the elderly that had her condition, elderly people that had, her condition. So I was looking in Florida at some options, and it was very expensive. And again, I'm just kind of getting back on my feet. Part of my divorce story is that I walked away from almost everything that was due to me. So yes, I was married for I was married almost 17 years and stay-at-home mom. I relied on the person I was married to as being the sole breadwinner. And, I would do some side hustles here and there. So I did have some income, but I was mainly a stay-at-home mom, work-from-home wife. And I decided not to take what was due to me. And that's a really interesting story. So I'll be sure to post that as well. And so just getting on my feet financially, just thinking about the financial aspect of putting my mother in a home. Florida, I learned, was very expensive. And I had come there from Illinois, which was even more expensive. So I just started praying, like, Lord, what can I do? I want my mom to have good care. I can't have my family worn out like this. And so I had this idea to come to Puerto Rico, and I checked in some options here, and it just ended up being more affordable. That being said, the other reason I came here is because I had already purchased a property almost 3 years ago. I don't have a mortgage on this place, and just again, financially that worked out because I'm rebuilding. For those of you who have been with me through my debt-free journey days and my financial blogging days, you might remember that I was well on my way to be, honestly, we were going to be debt-free millionaires probably a little bit before our mid-40s, and the marriage failed. It didn't work out. So I am starting from square one, choosing not to have taken most of the wealth and the businesses and the real estate that was built up during that time. So my goal is just to keep our family afloat financially. I also was able to find a really good bilingual Christian school for my youngest daughter who's still attending school, very reasonable. And so those are some of the reasons why I found myself in Puerto Rico. But also, I have had a dream for many years, ever since going back to 19 or 20 years old. I said, I'm going to retire in the Caribbean, and I had no idea that I'd be, I'm knocking on my mid 40s. And I can say that I, again, work optional-ish. So my biggest thing is just clearing some of the debt from the divorce and, going through that time period where I wasn't working as much and I was waiting for court orders, child support orders, all that fun stuff. I honestly racked up some debt. I'm not proud saying that because I was such a diehard debt-free, don't use credit cards. And so here I am back on the grind with some of you all who might be in the same situation, hoping to pay off debt. So the main reason I came here is, yes, the finances, the affordability, but the other reason is that I just always had a dream to be in the Caribbean. In fact, I found a vision board from 2018 saying that I would have debt-free property in the Caribbean, and then somewhere like kind of close by it said Punta Cana. So let me just show you how faithful God is. Not only did I get a property debt-free in Puerto Rico, but I'm under contract right now to get a condo in the Dominican Republic, debt-free. So if you're interested in learning more about how I am doing all these amazing things, barely working, walked away from everything, starting over, paying down debt, I would love to share with you a book that I'm working on called Real Estate by Faith. So you can check out the links below, because what I have to do, I don't have the W-2, you know, the savings, the spouse, not yet. I'm not gonna confess that over myself, but that's how I've been operating. I've been operating as a single mother, been operating as someone without a spouse, a W-2, huge cushion of savings. That's how I've been operating. Yet God has blessed me to be under contract on a third property in less than 2 years after being divorced. So I'd love to share with you some of the spiritual and biblical strategies that I've used to get to that point, and I hope it's a blessing to you. So yeah, long story short, I'm in Puerto Rico because the vision spoke to me, and because it just works for me financially. And so hopefully that was helpful. If you have any questions, comment below. Check out some of my links below, and thanks again, and I'll see you soon on the next video.